always, usually, normally, generally, often, frequently, sometimes, occasionally, seldom, hardly ever, rarely, never. These are all adverbs, and they describe how frequently we do an activity or the frequency of habits. These are called adverbs of frequency, or more specifically, adverbs of indefinite frequency. The percentages that appear on the left are only approximate numbers to give you a general idea of the frequency associated with each adverb. When something happens 100% of the time, we use the adverb always. For example, I always brush my teeth at night. This means that without exception, 100% of the time, I will brush my teeth at night before going to bed. What is the opposite of always? Never, which is 0% of the time. For example, vegetarians never eat meat. This means there is a 0% possibility of this happening. The frequency is 0. What adverb do we use when something happens half the time and the other half of the time it doesn't happen? When something has about a 50% frequency of happening, we use the adverb sometimes. For example, I sometimes sing in the shower. This means half the time I'm in the shower, I sing, and half the time I don't sing. I sometimes sing in the shower. What can we use if we almost never do something? It's not 0%, but maybe 5% possibility of it happening. In this case, we use the adverbs hardly ever or rarely. For example, I hardly ever get angry. Or you can say, I rarely get angry. They both mean the same thing. This means there is a very small chance of it happening, but it is almost never. I hardly ever get angry. It usually only happens if you steal my chocolate from the fridge. Other than that, nothing else annoys me. Let's quickly look at the other adverbs of frequency. Usually is when something happens around 90% of the time. It is almost always. For example, I usually walk to work. Yes, I live close to my place of work, so I usually walk there. Normally or generally happens around 80% of the time. For example, I normally get good marks. Yes, about 80% of the time my marks are good. The rest of the time they're excellent. When something has a frequency of about 70%, we use the adverbs often or frequently. Often can be pronounced two ways, by pronouncing the T, often, or by not pronouncing the T, often. Both forms are correct and depend on where you live. The example of these adverbs is, I often read in bed at night, which is the same as saying, I frequently read in bed at night. The adverb often is more common than using the word frequently. The adverb occasionally is at about 30%. For example, I occasionally go to bed late. Yes, usually on Friday and Saturday night. I occasionally go to bed late. And the adverb seldom is at about 10% frequency. For example, I seldom add salt to my food, which means it is not common or not often that I add salt. The adverbs seldom, hardly ever, rarely, and never all have a negative meaning. Let's look at word order when we use adverbs of frequency. In general, the adverb of frequency goes before the main verb. The order is subject plus adverb plus main verb. Let's look at this sentence. I read in bed at night. If I want to let you know about the frequency I do this, the frequency that I read in bed, then I need to use an adverb. The main verb is read, so we put the adverb before the verb read. I often read in bed at night. Another example. Daniel always passes his exams. The main verb is passes, so we put the adverb before it. Daniel always passes his exams. They never speak Spanish in class. The main verb is speak, so the adverb of frequency goes before it. They never speak Spanish in class. When there is an auxiliary verb such as has, have, must, might, will, can, should, would, etc., followed by a main verb, then the adverb goes between them both. Subject plus auxiliary verb plus adverb plus main verb. For example, I have done my homework. Have is the auxiliary verb and done is the main verb, so we put the adverb of frequency in the middle. I have always done my homework. You can see it is the same rule as before. The adverb goes before the main verb. Just remember to put it after the auxiliary verb. Another example. Susan has always lived in New York. Has is the auxiliary verb and lived is the main verb, so we put the adverb of frequency in the middle. Susan has always lived in New York. I have never eaten dog food. The adverb never goes between the auxiliary verb have and the main verb eaten. I have never eaten dog food that I know of. Of course, in English, there's always an exception, and this happens with the verb to be. When we want to use an adverb with the verb to be, then the order is subject plus to be plus adverb. For example, I am busy at work. Am is the form or conjugation of the verb to be, so we put the adverb after it. I am normally busy at work. We cannot say, I normally am busy at work. No, this is not correct. He is always happy. Again, the adverb is after the form of to be. He is always happy. They are sometimes late. The adverb sometimes comes after the verb are, which is a form of to be. They are sometimes late. We have just seen the common position of adverbs of frequency within a sentence. But it is also possible to put some adverbs at the beginning of a sentence. These adverbs include usually, normally, frequently, generally, occasionally, and sometimes. Look at these examples. Occasionally, I have pancakes for breakfast. Or you can put the adverb between the subject and the main verb. I occasionally have pancakes for breakfast. Both sentences are correct. Normally, our English class is in the morning. Sometimes they take a bus to work. But be careful with always, hardly ever, seldom, rarely, and never. Do not put them at the beginning of the sentence. No. Always I get up early is not correct. No. We need to put always before the main verb. I always get up early. That is correct. The exception to this is when we're using always or never in the imperative to give orders or instructions. We will see more about this in another video. I hope you found this video useful. You might want to watch our other video about adverbs of definite frequency. These are a little different. Have an awesome day!